Imagine a gorgeous boy or girl. Any image that comes to your mind when I use the term gorgeous. Imagine the amount of compliments they receive throughout the day, the amount of friends they have, all their amazing relationships. On top of that, they are smart. A 4.0 GPA, a perfect student. Would those things make you happier? As a freshman in high school, those things do affect my happiness, and I wondered if it was the same for the rest of my high school. I wondered how significantly appearance, academics, and relationships affected high school students' happiness. Happiness is a broad word. There are many different elements that make up someone's happiness. Appearance does not have an effect on all of those elements. The ones it does affect are self-worth, self-confidence, and self-acceptance. This means it affects the image you have of yourself, and your happiness or unhappiness that is tied to that image and to your self-esteem. Personally, I can say that my confidence is adequately dependent on my looks, and that for me, I would be much more confident. My happiness is dependent on how I look. Shockingly, I can say the same thing for over half of my high school. In a survey that was sent to all 9th through 12th graders, 76% of the respondents said that they would be more confident if their appearance was different or better. 3/4 of my high school have an appearance that is somewhat dependent on the way, have a confidence that is somewhat dependent on the way they look. 3/4 of my high school are lacking a crucial self-confidence that they should have. 3/4 of my high school would change something about the way they look so they could be happier with themselves, meaning those 3/4 are in some way disappointed in the way they look, therefore disappointed in themselves. So yes, appearance does have an effect on my high school. To see how significantly appearance affected individuals, I interviewed a couple of my high school students. In an interview with a junior, I asked how she feels when complimented on her appearance. She stated that it makes her feel better about herself and that it greatly boosts her self-esteem. In another interview with a sophomore, I asked what she thinks of her appearance and if she would be more confident if she looked different or better. She answered saying she does not consider herself good-looking and that her appearance has always hindered her self-confidence. She also stated that she would much rather be prettier because it would raise her self-esteem. In both of these interviews, appearance seemed to have a pretty significant effect on their happiness. And if it's the same for the rest of the high school students, then in high school, it's not how pretty you actually are, but how good-looking you consider yourself to be that really affects your happiness. Academics is another factor that affects teenagers' happiness, again specifically in self-worth and self-acceptance. To see how significantly it does affect, I interviewed a couple of high school students. Both of them said that then when they receive a higher grade, which they consider to be a high B or above, they feel better about themselves. And then when receiving a low grade, which they consider to be a low B or below, they feel worse about themselves. In an interview with a sophomore, she said that when she receives a high grade, she feels more motivated and that she feels better about her self-growth. She also stated that when receiving a low grade, she's often negative towards herself and labels herself as dumb and retarded. What was interesting is that neither were satisfied with the grades they have now. They both believe that they could try harder and do better. When they receive a low grade, they feel worse about themselves and as if they aren't smart, which lowers their self-esteem. This lack of self-esteem and confidence also lowers their motivation to do better. They don't think they can do better, so they don't try at all. Academics not only affects self-acceptance, but also positivity and motivation. Throughout high school, everyone experiences good and bad relationships. I'm a freshman and I feel like I've already experienced my fair share of both. But how do these affect a teenager's happiness? Based off of studies, both positive and negative relationships affect happiness. However, when there are negative relationships in place, the positive ones lose their effect. Based on the interviews I had with high school students, this could be true at our high school. I asked my interviewees to rate their happiness on a scale of 1 to 10, both on a regular basis and when hanging around a small group of their closest friends. All of my interviewees had a much higher happiness level when they were hanging around a large group of friends than on a small group of friends than on a regular basis. However, when I asked if they were excluded and to rate their happiness level when they are excluded or when hanging around a large group of friends, the happiness level that they had was much closer to their regular happiness, though it was lower than what it was when they were with a small group of their closest friends, which could imply that the negative relationships and their exclusion are more prominent and they are focused on more than their positive ones. So now that you know all this, I would like you to imagine yourself. Imagine yourself as gorgeous. What would that look like? Would you change anything about your appearance? Imagine the amount of compliments you receive as you walk down the school hallways. Imagine your friends joining you. Imagine perfect friends joining you. Imagine their laughter and their smiles. And lastly, imagine a 4.0 GPA. Imagine being a perfect student. Are you happy? Now, rewind. I would like you to imagine you're walking down the hallway again, but don't change a thing about your appearance. How many compliments do you receive? Imagine your actual friends joining you, how they treat you, large gatherings, ever felt left out? Lastly, your actual GPA. If you didn't feel any different between those two scenarios, then congratulations. But if you did, is it so hard to believe the significance of appearance, academics, and relationships on high school students' happiness?